Hey, welcome to Broken World Entertainment. And it's finally over. Our pain and suffering. Episode 8 of Rings of Power has finished. Yay! Yesterday, our suffering ended when She-Hulk ended. So, this show has finally come to an end, and it probably won't be until late 2024 at the earliest, possibly 2025, before season 2 of Rings of Power comes out. So, we start this episode off with the wizard, and he arrives in what is called the Greenwood. And he comes across the nuns. He takes out the apple, he starts thinking of Nori. He sees someone, he goes after them. He thinks it's Nori, it looks like Nori, it comes down, and it's Eminem Nun. Or as Gary over in Nerdrotic calls her, Feminem. So he finds them, and they think he's Sauron. And they tell him they're here to serve him, and they all bow down to him. Of course, we all know he's not Sauron, because we know who Sauron is. So then we go to Galadriel and Halbrand returning to the city, the Elf City, and we are told that 6 days have passed. So it took them a mere 6 days to get from Numenor, or sorry, not Numenor, Mordor, all the way up to the Elf City. The name of it keeps eluding me. 6 days, that's it. By the way, this dude was on death's door last week, in bed, bedridden, a cut from his hip up to his pec. Couldn't move. Next scene, he was walking around, getting on horseback, and now he's coming in and he's still on horseback, but he's a bit slunched over. And the next scene we get of him, he's basically on death's bed again. And all these elves working on him. So, we get all of them with Elrond and Celebrimbor. So, as I said, 6 days have passed. Galadriel and Elrond have a chit chat, and they're saying like, "Oh, she explains why she jumped off the ship and all she could do was swim and blah blah blah." And then she says that she did not cross the bitter ocean just to drown now. All right. Oh, yeah, this thing's full of all that stupid bleeding thing. Then Halbrand comes across Celebrimbor. Yeah, all of a sudden he's up and about again. He walks into the forge and he starts talking with Celebrimbor. He says like, "Is this Celebrimbor's forge or workshop?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Is he here?" And he goes, "He is." And then opens up like the roof, and he realized, "Oh wait, you're Celebrimbor." And it's like, Jesus Christ. So they talk, and Halbrand, aka Sauron, shh, don't tell anyone, it is coming up though, about the meteor. He sees it and he's like, "Hey, this is an unusual ore, what's this?" And Celebrimborn's explaining that they need things to kind of fuse together, and well, not fuse together, but they're trying to make things blah blah blah, and this seems to be awkward. And Halbrand explains that his people used to combine an inferior metal to a stronger one, that sometimes they just seem to work together better. And Celebrimbor is like, "Oh my god, that's genius, let's do that." Then we're back to Numenor, And Farazan is talking with the apprentices, aka the captain's daughter is there. Elendale. That's the captain's name, Elendale. The tall man. He was in the stories, he's like a 7'11", I think, human. So his daughter's there. They're all apprentices, and they're being told they're going to have time with the king. So she's drawing the king. We go instantly to her drawing the king. And the king starts saying something to her, and he grabs her and tells her, like, it's not too late, blah, 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 and thinks she's Muriel. So she runs off, screams for help, but she comes back and the king's not in the bed. But he's opened a door and tells her there's still time. She goes in, and she obviously comes across the, what's it called, the seeing eye? Is that what they were called? The balls, you know. That's it for her scene. And you don't even actually see the full ball. They seem to have like her pulling off the cover off it and cut away before the reveal. And it's like, we know what the hell it is. We've already seen it in the show, like, idiots. Then we're with Galadriel, Elrond, and Celebrimbor, and they're talking about forging the rings. They don't mention rings. They're actually talking about Galahad. Jesus. The king, the elf king, his name I can't get out at the moment. It will come to me. They're talking about they need to make something with the Mithril to harness the power to save the elves. And they're not talking actually about making rings, they're talking about making a crown that the king can wear. And he's all, oh, it's too late, and blah, blah, blah. And Celebrimbor says, like, we need to make something that's the power over the flesh. Which instantly has Galadriel kind of staring at him, kind of, what's going on here? And then the king wanders off. He's like, no, prepare your stuff, we're leaving. Yeah. For some reason, they're going to die. Not right away. Like, they'll live, they'll just start to grow old and stuff. But for some reason, they have to leave their city. Why? Don't know. They don't explain that. The king's just like, yeah, just pack your shit up and let's go. You're like, alright, that makes no sense, but whatever. Elrond wants the king, though, to give him 3 months. He wants 3 months to help try and figure it all out. And he somewhat gives in, and they start forging. Galadriel now isn't trusting Halbrand, and they talk, and this is the big reveal that we've known since episode 1, that Halbrand is Sauron. So they're talking because she receives a scroll that basically says the King of the South died and he actually had no heirs. So she starts confronting him. Asks who he is. He tells her, like, I told you I took the thing off a dead guy. And she's like, no, you done this. She goes, you saved me on the raft. He says, no, you saved me. She says, you fought with us in the south. He says, I fought your enemies and mine. And then she says, who are you? And he goes ahead and says that he's been around since the first light of day or something, and blah blah blah, and in all that time he's gone by many names. Oh yes. It's so stupid. I think I've actually skipped ahead a bit on that one, but whatever, they're talking anyway. So the wizard and the nuns are there. They're trying to explain to him who the wizard is. They're trying to convince him anyway that he's Sauron. And he starts summoning powers and stuff, and Feminem puts him asleep. They don't trust him. They think he's not in control of the power, so they tie him up. The Harfoots find him. They're all there. Except they see two of the nuns tying up the wizard and walking off. So they go, okay, let's go save the wizard. As they're untying him, it turns out it's not the wizard, it's actually Feminem. Who, by the way, she's the only one of the three nuns that doesn't speak. And out of all the times we've seen her, she seems to be the leader. It doesn't seem like she's actually the leader, because one of the other ones keeps giving her commands, which was strange. But anyway, so they have a bit of a fight with the nuns. One of the nuns throws a knife and stabs Lenny Henry's Harfoot, so he's pretty hurt at the moment. Don't worry, he's going to die. One smelly Harfoot down anyway. And the wizard saves Nordy. The Harfoots are trying to stop the nuns. Feminem takes the fire into her hands and starts burning down the forest to try and kill the Harfoots. Nori and the wizard talk. She convinces him that no, he's good. And the wizard saves the Harfoots and kills the nuns. They say he's not Sauron, he's the other. And they are about to say his name, and he says, I'm good. And uses their staff and turns them into butterflies, weirdly enough. And then Lenny Henry dies. They're like, okay, let's go. And he's all, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. It's time for me to wander off the trail. And get this right, it's pitch black. It's the dead of night. And they said, oh, well, can we not? And he says, no, I just want to sit here and watch the sunrise. So, Nordy, Poppy, and Nordy's mother are the ones with Lenny Henry. They sit down with him. And instantly the sun is up. You're like, holy shit, that came up quick. Like, it didn't even start to get a little bit. It just instant. Bing! It was like someone turned the light on. I was like, alright. And then as soon as it gets bright, he closes his eyes and he's dead. Then we go to the Numenor ship. There's one ship, by the way. Where the other two went, don't know, but there's one sailing in. Lindale goes down, I believe, into the hold. That's where it looked like he went. And Muriel is there. She's walking and counting. She counts to 8, and she's like, I did it. And he goes, it's actually 9 steps to the pole. They have a bit of a chit chat about loss and going back. And they get called up on deck, telling them that Numenor is in sight. Not that Muriel's going to see it. They go up. She now has her blindfold on again. By the way, her blindfold is now white. She appears to be wearing blindfolds to match her dress. How does she know which colour is which? Don't know. Because no one bar Elendil knows that she's blind. And if you didn't know, she wears the blindfold to convince people she's not blind. Figure that one out. So they're all kind of silent, and she's like, well, what is it? What's going on? And they're still saying nothing. They're like, what's going on? And we get a shot of them arriving into Numenor, and there's a shit ton of other ships there. Different looking ships with black flag type things on them. And it turns out the king is dead. We just get a shot of the king dead in bed with Pharazôn standing staring at him. Then we're back in the forge and there's a bit of an explosion. And Galadriel runs in and is like, what the hell's going on? And they can't work the mithril. It's too strong of a compound. It won't forge for them. And Halbrand says that maybe that's the problem. Maybe we're actually working it too hard. And they realise, oh, if we do it gently and kind of naturally let it bind with something, it could work. And then Galadriel finds out properly. This is where I skipped ahead. I can't remember what they were talking about then. I the other head. Excuse me. But this is where she finds out who Halbrand is. So she goes and has a talk with him. And this is when the whole, I've been known by many names and stuff. She takes out the blade and she tries to kill him and he stops her. Right at the neck. And puts her into a dream. Basically. So she instantly wakes up and it's what the start of the show was. Except she's not the kid this time. She's the Galadriel from the show now. Her brother's there and she's like, no, you're not him. He's dead. But they still end up having a chit chat. And he's like, do you remember what I whispered to you under this tree? And he leans in and we hear what he says. And it's reach out and touch the darkness one more time. And she's like, no, you're not him. You're not my brother. He's dead. She goes to walk off and he's like, why would you say that? And screams at her to look at him. And it all flips. And she's back with Halbrand. Sauron. On the raft. And it's all shaky. And he basically wants the two of them to join. He's literally saying like, you know, when Morgoth died, it was like he lost a great power, blah, blah, blah. And is trying to convince her that with her by his side, he won't be in the darkness and all this stuff. Because she's like, oh, you're the Lord of Darkness. And he's like, no. Not with you by my side. And he stops the raft from shaking and stuff. And she looks and the reflection is her obviously her, but his reflection is Sauron. Like the actual Sauron with the mask on and everything. And she's still like, no, get fucked. And they have a bit of a screaming match that he's Sauron and his eye starts turning to that eye. And she's screaming at him that she's going to kill him. She tries to stab him again. Then all of a sudden, she's in the water, drowning when she fell into the water, tied to the post in like the second episode or whatever it was. And Elrond finds her in water because she's talking with him down by this little river and she's in it. And she puts the knife to Elrond and convinces him, tells him like, how do I know it's you? Convince me, tell me when we first met. And he explains and she's like, oh, my friend. So they go running up. Well, she takes off and goes running up to Celebrimbor in the forge, and he's still trying to make the rings, obviously. And this is where this is what their conversation was, Galadriel and Halbrand, the first time, where I messed up and thought it was when she finds out it was he talks about it. There's too much in one object. They're gonna have to make at least two. So they're talking now, and they're like, okay, we need to actually make 3. And Celebrimbor explains, we've got certain elements that the stuff is fusing, but we need gold and silver. And the only gold and silver that's there is Galadriel's brother's knife. And he says, you know, we got to make sacrifices. Yippee. Then we go to Nori and the wizard, and they're talking, and the wizard talks now, like properly talks. Still doesn't say his name, but he's properly talking. And he's kind of saying, oh, look, it's time to, I'm going to go my way, you go your way. She's like, oh, it sounds like an adventure. And he's like, no, an adventure is a group of people. A journey is just one. Blah, blah, blah. So the Harfoots are moving on to their next home, and it'll be a 30-day journey. Nordy ends up being told by her folks that her journey is with the wizard, so she goes with the wizard. There was a big long goodbye with them, and she eventually goes up. Poppy doesn't seem like she's going to say bye to her, and then as she's walking up to the wizard, Poppy runs up, why does everyone I love leave me, blah blah blah. Maybe you fucking at them, you fucking... No. What? No. I didn't say that. What are you talking about? So Nori's like, okay, I can't look back because, I'll have second thoughts. And he's like, well, in that case, you may as well lead the way. And they realise they don't know where in the hell they're going. He sniffs the air and goes, ooh, it smells sweet in that direction. Let's go that way. Just well he doesn't come across the smell of bread or something being cooked, eh? So the Harfoots feck off in one direction, Nordy and the wizard go off in the other direction. The funny thing is, when you see them walking, I was like, did they not come from that direction? Obviously not, but whatever. Then we're back with Galadriel, and she gives up the knife into the forge. They melt it down, they pour it out, and while all that's happening, Elrond is back down and finds the scroll that says Halbrand wasn't the king of the South and all this. And they forge 3 rings. 3 very crap looking rings. There's a gold one, a silver one, and like a bronze one. And they put little kind of rubies in. There's a red ruby, a blue ruby, and I think like a white ruby. I was like, oh, that's it. That's the 3. And these rings are only for the elves. And our very last shot then is those 3 rings in a circle that all of a sudden Mount Doom appears in the middle. The rings turn actually into the Eye of Halbrand, and we see Sauron standing in Mordor looking at Mount Doom, and he starts walking at Mount Doom, and it ends with a stupid song playing about rings. That's it for the show. It's over. How in Christ's name Halbrand made it back to Numenor in what appeared to be a day, don't know. Especially when it apparently took them 6 days to get from there back up to the elves. It's going to take 30 days for the psychopaths known as the Harfoots to get wherever they're going. So we probably won't be seeing them in season 2. Not that that's a bad thing. It's all over. It's all over. For at least 2 years. Thank God, because this show sucks. To call this show Lord of the Rings is an insult to the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. Whoa. However, the one thing it has done is it's made this channel grow, so cheers for that. And I'm sure Dumb and Dumber, yes, the showrunners, I'm sure they'll continue to say stupid shit that we can make videos on. Because they just won't shut up. Anyway, that's it for our Lord of the Rings reviews. I may do a full breakdown of season 1. Like, just kind of go over what happened and stuff. Don't know about that. If I do, you'll see the video. If I don't, obviously you won't. But until the next one, cheers. And I shall catch you in the next one. Bye for now.